India, a land where light and darkness coexist, where heaven and hell are separated by nothing more than a single breath. Here, the sun rises from the snow-white peaks of the Himalayas, shining over radiant temples and silent villages, surrounded by dry fields and parched rivers. Yet that very sunlight also glimmers on pitch-black canals, overcrowded slums, and walls stained with the stench of waste. India, a nation of extremes, where beauty can leave you breathless and filth can make you shudder. People come here in search of the sacred, only to leave in shock. This is a country that birthed religion, philosophy, and human civilization itself, yet also a land where hygiene, poverty, and inequality constantly test the limits of human endurance. In India, you may see a man bathing in a holy river to wash away his sins, while beside him, human and animal corpses drift in the same water. You may smell incense from golden temples, mingling with the pungent odor of tons of uncollected garbage. And just a few streets away, modern glass towers rise amid suffocating slums, a bizarre crack between two worlds. Mark Twain once wrote, "India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history." But if he were alive today, would he still say the same after witnessing this reality? A place where drinking water can kill, air can sicken you, and street food can become a gamble with death. India, a land both lovable and terrifying, sacred yet cruel, pure yet shrouded in darkness. Why does a nation of more than 1.4 billion people, blessed with a dazzling cultural heritage and the ancient wisdom of Buddha, the Vedas, and Gandhi, still struggle with problems that seem to belong to the Middle Ages? Why, in the 21st century, do some still believe that bathing in cow urine can cure disease, while others spend their entire lives in slums smaller than a football field? And we, the outsiders, do we truly understand what lies hidden behind the dust of poverty and chaos? Today, fascinating discoveries will not merely tell a story of dirt or poverty, but a story about the essence of humanity in the harshest of environments. We will step into the true heart of India. Dharavi, the largest slum in the world, where 1 million people live within just over 2 square kilometers, where poor hands turn trash into gold, and where hope still flickers beneath every tin roof. This is not the India that travel brochures want you to see. This is the real India, where the line between the sacred and the profane, between faith and fact, between man and fate, is as thin as a wisp of incense smoke. Stay calm, for this journey will both astonish and haunt you. And perhaps by the end, you'll never look at the world the same way again. Number 1. Social context and sanitation challenges. Amid the modern world glowing with neon lights, there exists a land where the past and present intertwine in every breath: India. A nation of more than 1.4 billion people, where every inch of land bears the weight of history, faith, and contradictions beyond belief. Here, you may see golden temples and majestic palaces. But with a simple turn of your head, the scene changes completely. Black rivers, floating garbage, and children bathing in the same water where others wash clothes, dishes, or even release corpses. India is a country where, as many travelers say, even a glass of water can make you sick. Here, water is not always life. Sometimes it's a curse. I've been to many poor countries, but only in India did I truly understand what it means to feel both the pain of the stomach and the pain of the soul. Just a sip from a shower head, a single ice cube in a drink, can leave you bedridden for days. In many areas, water treatment systems simply don't exist. Domestic waste, industrial runoff, even animal carcasses all flow into one place, the Ganges River. For over 900 million Hindus, this river is not merely water, It is the embodiment of the goddess Ganga, believed to purify the soul. They believe that bathing in it washes away sins and brings them closer to salvation. And so, despite the pollution, millions immerse themselves daily in its waters, praying amidst incense smoke, ashes, and floating trash. Many also believe that being cremated on the banks of the Ganges and having their ashes scattered into the sacred water grants liberation from the cycle of rebirth. But not everyone is cremated. According to Hindu tradition, infants, pregnant women, and those considered pure are not burned. They are tied to stones and released into the river. This means that in the same water where millions drink, bathe, and pray, thousands of bodies are slowly decomposing. These scenes are not rumors, they are reality. During the COVID pandemic, hundreds of corpses were seen floating down the river, carried by the current, washed up along the banks, while just meters away, people still bowed in prayer under the golden sunset. Cows, revered as sacred animals, roam freely, defecating and sometimes dying by the river, where the same water continues to be drawn for cooking. India, a place where purity and pollution are no longer measured by hygiene, but by faith. People believe that Ganga can cleanse everything, even human sin, though it is humanity itself that poisons her each day. This is the greatest paradox you'll encounter here. A nation that worships water, yet is one of the most water-scarce places on earth. A land that deems life sacred, yet lives among waste, corpses, and dust. A country growing at a staggering pace, yet still bound by ancient habits that refuse to fade. The real question isn't just, why is India so dirty? But how can people live in such filth and still believe it is normal? Perhaps the answer lies in the strange intersection of religion, culture, and poverty. In rural areas, teaching children to wash their hands or use a toilet remains a distant concept. Many families cannot afford bottled water, so they believe prayer alone can purify what they drink. Meanwhile, the government continues to struggle to provide clean water and waste management for hundreds of millions, an almost impossible task in a nation more populous than China. Yet, amidst all this hardship, India preserves something no other country can lose: faith. Faith that each passing day, even among dirt and decay, brings them closer to the divine. And that faith, whether it is what keeps India stagnant or enduring, is precisely what makes the world unable to look away. You may not understand it. You may be shocked, even angered. But when you stand before the Ganges at sunset, as the crimson sun dips into the haze of incense and chanting voices, you will realize this place is not merely dirty, it is a lesson in faith, endurance, and the human way of accepting fate. India, where every definition of clean and dirty, holy and profane dissolves into the flowing river, and in the calm gaze of millions who believe that here, even in filth itself, they are touching God. Number 2. Dharavi Slum, From Poverty to Ingenuity. In the very heart of Mumbai, India's richest city, lies another world entirely, one where the rules of life seem to have been rewritten. This place is called Dharavi, the largest slum in Asia. It spans less than 2.5 square kilometers, yet more than 1 million people call it home. From above, Dharavi looks like a vast gray carpet woven from thousands of corrugated tin roofs, tangled together like a labyrinth with no exit. But inside this seemingly chaotic maze lies one of the most extraordinary economic ecosystems in the world. Population density here reaches 418,000 people per square kilometer, 15 times higher than Manhattan. The narrow alleys are barely wide enough for one person to pass. Sometimes you must turn sideways to avoid brushing against damp, moldy walls. The air is thick, with smoke, sweat, and the acrid stench of burning plastic. Sunlight rarely reaches the ground, only slipping through cracks in rusted metal roofs. And yet, amid it all, life goes on, bustling, resilient, and full of vitality. Dharavi is a microcosm of human endurance, where people have learned to survive hardship and turn poverty into opportunity. Here, everything has value, even trash. Each day, hundreds of tons of plastic, paper, and metal waste from across Mumbai are brought to Dharavi. Young men cut, sort, wash, dry, and recycle them into new materials. In cramped, windowless rooms, they labor for hours amid the fumes of melting plastic. From these discarded fragments emerge thousands of new products: plastic bags, toys, machine parts, even goods exported overseas. People say, in Dharavi, nothing ever dies, not even garbage, because here, everything is reborn, just like the people themselves. Astonishingly, despite extreme poverty, Dharavi sustains an informal economy worth over $1 billion a year. There are pottery workshops glowing with fire day and night, tailoring units exporting clothes to Europe, and small bakeries supplying big restaurants across the city. People work relentlessly. No days off, no insurance, no safety measures. But one thing they never lose is dignity. They call themselves workers of hope, for with their calloused hands, they are building a better world for their children. In narrow alleys, children still go to school, small private ones, costing just a few $100s a year. Cramped homes, sometimes no larger than a closet in America, are sold for $25,000, a shocking figure, yet a dream for countless others. Because Dharavi, though filthy and overcrowded, remains the paradise of the forgotten, a place where people can work, earn, and simply exist. Yet life here is unimaginably harsh. Clean water is available only a few hours a day. Residents wake before dawn, queuing for hours with plastic containers, waiting for water to trickle from communal taps. Miss that window, and you wait until tomorrow. Electricity flickers unpredictably. The smoke from hundreds of pottery kilns mingles with burning plastic dust, turning the air into a choking furnace. But look closely, and amidst the haze and poverty, you'll glimpse a strange kind of light, the light of resilience. For Dharavi is not merely a shelter for the poor, it is a symbol of rebirth, of how people transform adversity into strength. The residents here do not wait for miracles from the government. They create them with their own hands. While the West preaches sustainability and circular economy, the people of Dharavi have practiced it for decades, not for fashion, but because it's the only way to survive. Amid cracked walls, laughter still echoes. At night, songs drift from beneath the blistering tin roofs. In Dharavi, people have learned a lesson modern societies often forget. You can be poor in money, but never poor in will. The world looks at Dharavi with pity. But to its people, this is home. A place where everyone, from the garbage collector to the potter to the children playing by the scrap heaps, is part of a vast living chain. And perhaps it is this chaos that creates its own strange order, one that is raw but deeply human. When Slumdog Millionaire won the Oscar in 2008, the world finally learned the name Dharavi. But what the film didn't show is this. Behind Hollywood's lights, Dharavi still lives, still poor, still dirty, but still shining in its own way. Perhaps Dharavi is the perfect metaphor for India itself, a country where gold and garbage coexist, where people live in the mud, yet keep their eyes on the light. When you leave this place, the smell of smoke, dust, and trash may cling to your clothes. But what lingers deeper is not the scent of poverty. It is the fragrance of human perseverance. Dharavi, not just a slum, but a living testament to the truth that out of the mud grows the lotus. Number 3, street food and hygiene customs. When people think of India, they often imagine its magnificent golden temples, sacred religious rituals, or the dazzling colors of its festivals. But there exists another world, livelier, wilder, the world of Indian street food, where flavor, faith, and bacteria coexist on the same plastic plate. On every corner, in every alley, you'll find smoky stalls surrounded by hundreds of people. Sweat dripping into bubbling pans of oil, aromas wafting through the air, or perhaps more accurately, a chaotic mix of spice, smoke, and risk. In India, eating is not just survival, it's a spiritual ritual. They believe food is prasad, a divine offering from God. And because it is sacred, it must be touched with bare hands, no knives, no forks, no barriers. Thus, from the cook to the eater, everything happens raw, simple, and filled with faith. Yet what might shock Westerners is simply everyday life here. In a bustling market, I once saw a man making flatbread. He took a lump of dough, slapped it under his armpit, pressed it a few times, and tossed it straight into the boiling oil. They call it armpit bread, an ancestral recipe passed down for generations. The vendor told me, "Sweat is God's most natural seasoning." I didn't know whether to laugh or be afraid. Then there was the aloe vera juice, a supposed miracle tonic sold everywhere. No gloves, no washing. The seller used a dull knife to slice open the plant, squeezed the gel into a cup, added syrup, and crushed ice from a dirty bucket. Customers drank it happily, believing aloe carries the healing energy of nature. And the sugarcane juice? In India, vendors wipe the cane with the same old rag before feeding it into a rusty iron press. No one bats an eye, for in their belief, food is only dirty when the heart is dirty. Perhaps it is this mindset that makes India one of the countries with the highest rates of intestinal infections. Yet its people possess an astonishing tolerance. Tourists, however, rarely last long before succumbing to the infamous Delhi belly, the traveler's curse of diarrhea that humbles even the strongest stomachs. But don't mistake Indian cuisine as purely dangerous. It is also a spiritual journey where every flavor carries a philosophy. Take chapra, a dipping sauce made from red ants and their eggs. In Chhattisgarh state, locals believe red ants embody powerful life energy, and their sharp, tangy flavor purifies the body. They dry the ants, grind them into powder, and mix them with salt and sugar to create a sauce that is both horrifying and miraculous. Then there's fire pani puri, a snack that can literally take your breath away. Pani puri, small crispy balls filled with spiced water, onions, beans, and mashed potatoes, is the most popular street food in India. But in Delhi and Mumbai, some vendors have upgraded the experience by setting the puree on fire before shoving it into customers' mouths. Flames burst out. You must swallow fast before your tongue burns. They believe that the fire burns away illness, cleanses the spirit, and brings good luck. If you can eat fire, you can conquer fear, one vendor told me with a radiant smile. These rituals may sound insane, but for Indians, eating is a sacred connection between humans and the divine. Every dish is a prayer, every meal a holy moment. In many regions, people eat only with their right hand, as the left is considered unclean, used for impure tasks. Touching food with the right hand is seen as an act of gratitude. They say, when you eat with your hands, you feed not just your body, but your soul. Yet from the perspective of modern hygiene, India remains a colossal challenge. Here, cleanliness doesn't come from bottles of sanitizer. It comes from faith. Westerners use soap to kill germs. Indians use belief to protect themselves. And perhaps that is what makes this land so paradoxical, a nation that is at once the dirtiest and the most spiritual in the world. Amid the rich aroma of curry, the sizzling oil, and the high-pitched cries of street vendors, one can feel the heartbeat of life, primal, wild, and fierce. India both horrifies and fascinates you, because on that thin line between filth and purity, between danger and divinity, Indians still live, still eat, still laugh, and still believe that God resides in every piece of bread, every drop of sugarcane juice, every flame flickering in the street. And perhaps that is what makes India truly unique. A place where everything that seems dirty can, in its own mysterious way, become a form of prayer. Number 4. Culture, faith, and extreme traditions. If there is a place on earth where humans worship animals more than they do their own kind, that place is India. Here, cows are not just animals, they are sacred beings. Each cow is regarded as the embodiment of Mother Earth, symbolizing nourishment and compassion. As a result, in many states, killing a cow is a crime that can send you to prison. While the rest of the world races toward industrialization, India proudly erects signs reading "No Cow Slaughter" right in the heart of its cities. Cows stroll leisurely through the streets, mingling with cars, motorcycles, and pedestrians, calm and unbothered, as though they are the true rulers of this land. In some states, cows even possess their own identification cards, cow ID cards, to prevent them from being smuggled into regions with different laws. Certain areas celebrate Gopastami, a festival dedicated entirely to cows, where people bathe them, adorn them with flower garlands, and rub scented oil on their bodies in sacred rituals. But what astonishes the world most is the extreme devotion Indians show toward these animals. During the COVID-19 pandemic, while the world turned to vaccines and modern medicine, many Indians believed the best way to boost immunity was to bathe in cow's milk and cover their bodies with a mixture of cow dung and urine. They call it Gaumutra therapy, the sacred cleansing treatment. Images spread across the internet, men standing in cow sheds, holding the tails of cows, eyes closed in prayer. To them, cow dung is a blessing, not filth. No doctor recommended it, yet thousands practiced it with unshakable faith. Such is India, a place where the boundaries between religion and life, between science and belief, have nearly vanished. Faith here is so powerful, it becomes the only argument that matters. Leaving the sacred world of cows, we enter another realm of custom, where marriage is no longer a matter between two individuals. In southern India lives the Toda tribe, a community where the concept of one husband, one wife simply doesn't exist. Here, a woman can have multiple husbands, and all of them are legally hers. On the wedding night, the bride spends time with each husband in turn, a ritual considered sacred, meant to preserve harmony within the family. It may sound bizarre, but to them, it represents equality and communal unity. Children born in such unions belong not to one man, but to all. They believe that in sharing, humans learn to live selflessly. To outsiders, it may seem illogical. But in India, where ancient traditions are woven into every breath, anything can become sacred. And amid all these colorful religious practices lies one of the darkest sects on earth, the Aghori. If anyone were to ask, where do humans come closest to the boundary between life and death? The answer lies in Varanasi, on the banks of the Ganges. Here live the Aghori monks, ascetics who dwell among ashes and corpses, consuming human flesh, drinking from skulls, and meditating atop funeral remains. To them, death is not horrifying. It is the doorway to enlightenment. They believe that only by facing the filthiest aspects of existence can one grasp the true purity of the soul. They smear ashes on their faces, wear loincloths, and live within cremation grounds where hundreds of bodies burn daily. Sometimes they invite tourists, not to convert them, but to test their courage. One Aghori once told me, "When you conquer disgust, you conquer yourself." Cold words, yet filled with a profound wisdom that only an Indian mystic could express. But not everyone in India is allowed to touch the sacred. The caste system, though officially abolished, still lingers in daily life. At the very bottom are the Dalits, also known by a crueler name, the untouchables. They are the garbage collectors, toilet cleaners, corpse bearers, and cremation workers, doing the jobs that higher castes deem impure. In many rural areas, they are still denied service in restaurants, forbidden from entering temples, or even sitting beside others. Some are forced to live in separate villages, as if they carry a contagious disease. And the cruel irony is this: in a society steeped in religion, it is these very people, labeled impure, who keep the nation clean. They handle everything others refuse to touch. India is a land of paradoxes, a country where people worship cows yet let children starve, where prayers rise above rivers filled with trash, where men eat human flesh in the pursuit of salvation. And yet, within this chaos lies something profoundly human, an unshakable faith in the power of the soul. That faith makes India both beautiful and terrifying, sacred and earthly. It is a place where all boundaries of morality, logic, and hygiene blur into one, leaving room for only a single force to prevail: faith. Number 5. The strange aspects often overlooked. Across this vast nation of over 1 billion people, there exist fragments so bizarre that even Indians themselves rarely speak of them. Things that leave you both astonished and bewildered, absurd, yet undeniably real. Far out in the Andaman Sea, surrounded by the endless Indian Ocean, lies a small island called North Sentinel. No electricity, no internet, no concept of the outside world. For thousands of years, the Sentinelese have lived in total isolation, rejecting all contact with humanity. The Indian government has banned any vessel from approaching because even a single sneeze, a flu virus, could wipe out the entire tribe. Anyone who dares to come near is met with arrows. In 2018, an American missionary named John Allen Chow risked his life to bring God to them. He was killed the moment he set foot on the island. The Sentinels do not want civilization. They do not want progress. They only want the purity of their existence. In a world obsessed with connection, they are the ultimate paradox, proof that some people will defend their isolation more fiercely than life itself. Back on the mainland, you encounter another side of India, chaotic, messy, yet somehow it works. On the streets of Delhi or Mumbai, thousands of motorbikes, cars, ox carts, pedestrians, and wandering cows move together in a symphony of horns and dust. No traffic laws are obeyed, no lanes, no order, and yet serious accidents are rare. Indians seem born with an instinct for navigating this chaos, flowing with it as naturally as breathing. To visitors, it's madness. To locals, it's order within disorder, a survival rhythm embedded in their blood. That's why the concept of lining up hardly exists here. You can wait patiently for hours, only to see dozens of people cut ahead of you within seconds, and no one looks embarrassed. To them, it's not rudeness, it's simply, whoever is faster goes first. A philosophy of traffic, and perhaps of life itself. Amid this chaos thrive professions found only in India. Take, for example, the wedding detective. These private investigators are hired to spy on brides or grooms before marriage, to ensure their partner hides no dark secrets or ex-lovers. In a country where arranged marriages remain common, investigating one's purity has become a $1 million industry. These agents operate like spies, tailing suspects, recording videos, gathering evidence. A single mistake can cancel a wedding attended by hundreds. And if you think that's strange, meet the spit inspectors of Mumbai. Yes, you heard that right. In India, people commonly chew pan, betel leaves mixed with areca nuts and spices, then spit out a thick red liquid onto streets, walls, even staircases. To combat this, the city created a special force, plainclothes officers who roam around, secretly catching spitters, on camera before issuing fines. A never-ending cat-and-mouse game between the government and a centuries-old habit. Walk down any street in India, and you'll witness an entire mobile economy, unlike anywhere else. In one corner, a man repairs tires right on the sidewalk. Next to him, an elderly barber gives haircuts under a sun-bleached umbrella. Further down, someone bandages wounds, sells medicine, or even sets broken bones, all in the open air. No licenses, no formal training. Yet, they have customers. In India, people do whatever it takes to survive, and everyone seems to have a skill to trade for a meal. Lose a sandal? Someone nearby will sell you a new pair. Your motorbike breaks down? A mechanic appears with his toolbox. Hungry? Look up. Dozens of food stalls are waiting for you. Every need is met, not through apps or technology, but through human ingenuity. Crude, improvised, yet astonishingly efficient. Indians don't sit and complain about poverty. They turn it into creative energy. In every alley, you see hardship, but also resourcefulness. A bone setter with no medical degree, a street doctor with no license. Yet they heal in their own way, with experience, faith, and resilience. An old bicycle becomes a mobile drink stall. A torn tarp transforms into a small convenience shop. Wherever the world says impossible, Indians quietly prove otherwise, because here, impossible exists only in the dictionary of the lazy. Perhaps this is what gives India its indomitable vitality, a nation poor in material wealth, but rich in adaptability. A society full of contradictions, where chaos hides a deep internal order. In India, people don't wait for the world to change. They change themselves to fit it. And whether you are shocked, frightened, or amazed, you cannot deny one truth. This so-called madness is, in fact, their miracle. Number 6. Efforts toward change and hope. Amid India's paradoxical landscape, where wealth and poverty, purity and filth, holiness and corruption coexist, there are quiet yet powerful efforts to bring about change. In 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the nationwide campaign Swachh Bharat Mission, the Clean India Mission, one of the largest public sanitation efforts in human history. The goal sounded simple: to eliminate open defecation and remove India from the list of the dirtiest countries in the world. But in a nation of 1.4 billion people, changing the behavior of hundreds of millions of poor rural citizens was not merely an infrastructure project. It was a social revolution. Over 100 million toilets were built within 5 years. Thousands of villages once blanketed in waste and sewage began to look cleaner. Streets became drier, and signboards reading "Open Defecation Free" appeared across rural India. For the first time in decades, the world recognized India for a massive social campaign that produced tangible results. Yet the hardest part wasn't building toilets, it was convincing people to use them. In many regions, newly constructed toilets were abandoned or repurposed as storage rooms. Many villagers believed that relieving oneself inside the home was impure, a curse that might offend the gods. This was a cultural challenge, one that bricks and cement alone could not solve. A study by the King Center on Global Development showed that while the Swachh Bharat mission drastically reduced open defecation, it hadn't yet reached the core. changing mindsets. Because poverty isn't just a lack of money, it's also a lack of belief in the value of cleanliness. To combat this, the Indian government launched a wave of creative media campaigns aimed at shifting community psychology. One of the most famous was "Take Poo to the Loo," a humorous yet symbolic slogan. On television, animated talking feces sang and urged people to take waste where it belongs. The campaign quickly became a national phenomenon, transforming public sanitation, once a taboo topic, into a subject of open conversation. What had long been a source of shame was finally brought into the light, and that was the first step toward change. At the same time, the non-profit organization Sulabh International, founded in 1970, played a pioneering role in turning waste into energy. They built tens of thousands of public toilets and developed biogas systems that convert human waste into fuel, transforming sewage into power for cooking and lighting. This model is known as sustainable sanitation, a concept that goes beyond cleanliness to empower the poor, especially women. In many rural areas, women once deemed impure for cleaning latrines now operate, maintain, and manage entire sanitation systems. These very individuals, once at the bottom of society, became the core of India's clean revolution. According to a report by the Public Policy Research Foundation of India, PMC, the percentage of households with private toilets rose from 38% in 2014 to over 90% by 2021. Yet numbers alone don't tell the full story. In many places, waste still flows into rivers, drainage systems remain disconnected, and plastic continues to blanket markets. Even so, a closer look reveals something undeniable. India is changing, slowly but steadily. A recent study published on Arxiv found that social norm interventions, changing collective beliefs and behaviors, not just individual ones, have the strongest impact. When one village starts using toilets, neighboring villages follow, fearing social shame for being left behind. In a country where collective honor outweighs individual pride, this becomes the key to lasting transformation. A war for cleanliness, fought not with weapons, but with faith and social pressure. Though limitations remain, the Swachh Bharat mission has sparked something far greater. Hope. Hope that a nation once labeled the dirtiest in the world is learning to cleanse itself. Hope that one day its rivers will no longer run black, its slums will no longer reek of waste, and its children will grow up without fear of disease. As Prime Minister Modi once said, "Cleanliness is not just a duty, it is a way to show respect to the nation." India still has a long way to go, but what matters most is that it has begun, beginning with the smallest acts: a public toilet, a media campaign, a village that no longer smells foul. Sometimes the greatest revolutions don't come from wealth, but from willpower. And in this land of contradictions, the faint light of hope, however small, still flickers amid the smog, the honking horns, and the dying rivers. Because every great nation begins its journey to greatness the same way, by learning to clean itself first. After a long journey through cramped slums, sacred rivers, unbelievable rituals, and faces covered in city dust, yet glowing with unyielding light, one truth becomes clear. India is not merely a land of poverty or pollution. It is a mirror of humanity itself. A place where the boundaries between holiness and sin, cleanliness and filth, civilization and instinct all blur into the same breath. From Dharavi, the poorest slum in the world that somehow generates over $1 billion a year, to the Ganges River, where prayers rise beside floating ashes, every image paints a portrait of a reality both painful and magnificent. India is a place where beauty and filth bloom side by side, where sacred faith is tested against brutal reality, and where ordinary people keep standing, no matter what they face. But if we only see the dust of poverty on the surface, we miss something far greater: the will to survive. A nation can be dirty, it can be poor, but as long as its people still burn with faith, it has never truly failed. The Swachh Bharat mission, Clean India campaign, is proof of that spirit. Millions of villages have changed their habits. Tens of millions have been given the chance to live better lives. Organizations like Sulabh International continue to turn waste into energy, transforming poverty into innovation. That is the real India. Imperfect yet resilient, unpolished yet alive. Not a land of despair, but a land of hope rising from ashes. Perhaps the real question isn't, why is India so dirty? But rather, what keeps its people living, believing, and smiling amid it all? In the clean, orderly West, we often judge a country by its polished streets and clear skies. But here, on this land, progress is not measured by brightness or luxury. It is measured by endurance and faith in tomorrow. Mark Twain once wrote, "India is the one land that all men desire to see, and having seen once, by even a glimpse, would not give that glimpse for the shows of all the rest of the globe combined." Perhaps he was right. India leaves you suspended between two emotions, awe and humility. It forces you to look inward, to realize that beneath the glitter of modern civilization, we too live among invisible slums of prejudice, arrogance, and indifference. Do we, the people from clean and orderly worlds, truly understand the dirt that Indians live with? Or is it merely the dirt within our own eyes? As this video comes to a close, you may feel overwhelmed, even conflicted. But that is exactly what India does best. It makes you feel, not just see. Remember, behind every cloud of dust, behind every polluted river, there are millions of stories of strength, faith, and the will to live. Because it is often in the darkest places that the light of humanity shines the brightest. If you believe there's still so much left to discover in this world, join us on our journey. Subscribe to Fascinating Discoveries, and don't miss the real stories. Stories about the world, about people, and sometimes about ourselves. Let every video be your ticket to distant lands, where beauty and pain intertwine, where you don't just see, but understand. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this journey. Leave a comment below. Share your thoughts about India. What surprised you most? What changed the way you see the world? Because sometimes, a single conversation can open an entirely new world. This is Fascinating Discoveries, where we don't just tell stories about the world, we seek to uncover the true meaning of being human.